Maybe he wants to play queen to f3 so that he can castle longside. But after this, here Kasparov brings his queen to c7. And now here black can capture this knight on d4 by knight takes d4. This is because after queen takes d4, now comes queen to c5, asking for queen exchange. But why? But why? Because as you can see, white can capture this pawn on f6. But guys, now comes rook to g8, attacking this pawn. And if white tries to defend this by simply pushing it, now black can go for bishop to g7, attacking this queen as well as eyeing on this knight on c3. And suppose if white goes to h4 square, now comes queen to e3 check, king to b1, and bishop takes c3. And if suppose white captured this bishop with the pawn, then simply queen takes e2. And at the end you can see that white pawn structure get destroyed and black will be a piece up. Okay, so in the actual game, after white long castled, so that's why he goes for h5. And as you can see in the next move, black wants to place his bishop to h6 so that he can target this queen and this king if white is not careful. So that's why here white decides to just slide his king so that he can get rid out of this pin. King to b8 by Kasparov, leaving this empty square so that this rook can jump towards this c8 square in future. By this, black can target this c2 pawn. And guys, that's an inaccuracy, because as you can see, this knight on c3 is controlling this d5 and b5 square, and now black can push this pawn to d5 in future since this knight is not here. So that's why here firstly Kasparov decides to bring back his bishop to c8 so that he can push d5 in future. Okay, so basically he wants to destroy this pawn structure, but guys, here Kasparov can also play rook to h8, defending this bishop so that he can move his rook to c5. And guys, as you can see that in the next move, white can go for bishop to g4, which attacks this e6 pawn supported by this knight. And again, as I said, white must consider bishop to g4, which targets this weak pawn, but instead he decides to bring his queen to f2. And now it's better for white to capture this pawn on d5. This is because after takes, now comes g4, blocking the defense of this h3 pawn, and in the next move you can see that white can capture this h3 pawn by his queen, which also attacks this bishop, and clearly you can see that this game will be completely equal. But in the actual game, after this move d5, he missed this move and instead he decides to directly capture this h3 pawn. And in this position, Kasparov shocked everyone by sacrificing his rook by rook to e4. A very beautiful move by Kasparov, and let's see what will happen if white captured this rook by his bishop. Suppose if bishop takes e4, then simply f takes e4, attacking this rook, and suppose if he decides to just slide his rook. Now in this position, black can actually sacrifice his bishop by bishop takes d4. This is because after rook takes d4, now comes e5, attacking this queen as well as this rook. And after this queen moves, then black will simply capture this rook and wins the game. Okay, so let me go back to this move. And yeah, suppose if in this position here white decides to go to d2 square, now black can play this amazing move e3, attacking this rook again. And suppose if rook to e2, now again we can go for bishop takes d4 with the same idea of rook takes d4 and then e5. So So that's why, suppose if white decides to not capture this bishop and he decides to just move his queen to h4, getting out from this range of bishop, then now comes e5. Again, we can play this move e5 with the idea of bishop to g4, which attacks the both rooks. And suppose if white tries to be over smart and he decides to just slide his rook, then simply queen to c3, and clearly you can see that now no one can stop this mate, and to stop this, white has to lose his queen. Okay, so let me go back to this move rook to e4. So that's why after seeing this all, here white decides to play c3, defending this very important knight. But again, I can't understand that why didn't capture this free pawn on d5, f5. But guys, instead of retreating this queen, here black can push e4. Okay, and suppose if white decides to capture this queen, now clearly you can see that black has these two passers, and clearly you can see that black will be better. Okay, so let's go back to our move queen to c7. Here, clearly you can see that black wants to place his bishop to his queen to e5 and then queen to a1. So that's why, to stop this, here white immediately brings his knight to c4, covering this e5 square. But here, instead of this rook to d8, here black must consider bishop to d7 with the idea of bishop to b5, attacking this knight. And clearly you can see that white can't recapture this due to this pin. But guys, instead of rook to e5, in this position, white must consider knight to f6, trying to exchange this bishop. And by this, white can get some relief for some time. But after rook to e5, here simply e3. And obviously, you can't capture this e3 pawn with the knight because then black will capture this bishop. So that's why he decides to go for And in this position, the final move by Kasparov is b4. And in this position, Jan Timman resigned. This is because clearly you can see that black is a bishop up. And let me show you a quick continuation. After this, he can go for h7 and he can give a check, simply king to b2, bishop to c3 check, king takes b3, bishop takes h8 check, king to c2, and finally rook takes h7. And yeah, that's all. Please like this video and also make sure to hype this video. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.